Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we have a new project planned, and that is to engrave some business cards. You can get these aluminium pre-painted business cards on Amazon for not a lot of money, and they are suited to be engraved with a blue dyed laser because the engraver will just burn the paint away essentially. In this video we're gonna first look a bit at the product itself, and then I'm gonna show you how you can easily make your own layout, your own designs for business cards, export them to LaserGRBL and then engrave them without needing to worry with like weird positioning things or stuff like that. Because if you used one of these engravers before, you know that can be kind of difficult to position things accurately on whatever you're doing. And by using Inkscape, which is a free piece of software to make like vector images, or we are not using it for vector images, just for design. It's super easy to make custom layouts for these business cards and engrave them. So without further ado, let's get right in. So let's take a closer look at the business cards themselves. They come in a 50 pack and in more if you order more. The 50 pack, the piece costs about 18 cents if you buy them in the 50 pack. Price obviously varies a little bit because it's Amazon. They also come with one fingerprint magnet stainless steel case, which is very reflective and looks gross in about no time, as you can see. And the business cards themselves are made out of aluminium. They have a bit of a spring to them, but if you go too far, they will bend, as you can see with this one. They are also not anodized, they are painted. I have no idea why they would say they are anodized, because it clearly isn't, and you can smell it while engraving. But yeah, they still work and are quite durable. Much more durable than a normal paper business card, which just looks gross after it's in your wallet, and that's the nice thing about them. So here we are at the desktop, and here is where we're gonna do all our layout. And even though this program looks a bit complicated, I promise you it's not that difficult, and it's a really powerful tool. Now this is Inkscape. This is free software, and we're gonna use LaserGRBL for the engraving, which is also free. Now on Inkscape, we are gonna start off with preparing our canvas. For this, we go into File and Document Properties. And here we can select a format, and we're gonna scroll down until we are at ID card and the ISO measurements, which is the measurements my cards are. If yours are for some reason different, like in the US, then you gotta select that. Now we put this horizontal and we are done. And now we have a canvas. We can press Ctrl and then scroll in with the mouse wheel, or do it on the bottom here. And now we can import all of our logos and put in all the text that we want. I'm gonna import my own logo here. And it's you have to make sure you use this import feature and not any other feature, because then it won't work. Now I'm gonna put this in here and it should work. Now this is my logo. Then we're gonna use these options here to resize it. First of all, lock in the proportions of your logo so it doesn't get distorted. And now I'm just gonna choose the actual size that you want on the finished product. So I'm gonna make my logo, I think, 20 millimeters tall. And now don't be scared if it's gone. You just have to zoom out and it's gonna be up here. And then you can drag it down. Now for fine adjustment, obviously dragging it won't really work. You can use these options here, and you can set a distance from the left side. It's always gonna be measured from the top left corner. So by putting in 7 millimeters, it's gonna be exactly 7 millimeters here. And this is very nice for resizing your layout here and making sure that it's not like crooked or doesn't line up properly. Then we're gonna put in some text, whatever you want. Just create a text box. You can choose any font you like. I'm just gonna use Arial here for the test. Create a text window, and now it's what happened to me is that this all looked wonky here. As you can see, it doesn't look proper. Yeah? This is not how text is supposed to look. Now what it's doing, it's not filling in the text, and it's doing a stroke. And what a stroke is like the outline. You can imagine it like that. And you want to remove it. So we want to use a black fill because we want black text. And then we're gonna right click and remove the stroke. And now it's looking like normal text. I don't know why it's on by default. It's stupid, but that's the way it is. For the text size, you can enter it in millimeters. That's what I always do, or just in a normal pixel format. But millimeters makes it just so much easier to measure. So I've now drawn up a small sketch of a business card. You can, if it helps you with layout, you can go into view and turn on a page grid. So you can align it manually on the grid if that makes it easier for you. And then you are already done with the design. And now we can go into export. And now you have to be a bit careful. For export, just enter your file name right here. This is where it's gonna put it. And this thing is the name. So I'm gonna do YouTube test. And for the format, I'm gonna select PNG. Then we need to adjust the DPI. This is set very low by default, and it's not enough. For the LaserGRBL software, it won't turn out good. So I'm gonna raise it up to 300, and then export the file, and then it's done. You can save this file as a Inkscape SVG file, and that way you can edit it later if you want to. And now that we've saved our file, we can go into LaserGRBL and load our test file in. This is the one we just created. And now by entering, so you can see you can do all the normal adjustments like always. Make sure it looks good in the preview. I'm gonna turn on adaptive quality. I'm gonna use 8 lines per millimeter filling, horizontal fill, and everything that I normally do with my engraver. And then when we go into next, we have to make sure that this size is set to the exact same size that it was before in the software. So 85.6 millimeters is the width, and then the height should turn out at 54 millimeters just by default, because that's the scaling that we had before. These are the power settings that I've done. I've done one engraving and it turned out good. If you do a lot of them, then you may go with a higher fill speed. But 50% power, 1250 millimeters per minute fill speed should be okay. And then we're gonna create our file. Now in here, you can check if it was like you planned, because LaserGRBL shows you the offsets in millimeters. You can check if that's what you actually want. And then we're gonna set it up in the engraver, check one last time with the outline feature, and then we hit the fire button and engrave it. And now onto the alignment. If you plan to engrave these business cards with your engraver, I would highly recommend getting a cutting mat like this with a grid, because it's gonna make the job so much easier. There's like no chance you're gonna align it properly without a grid. Just not gonna happen. And then we can just focus it. I have already focused this because I've done engraving. Maybe raise it up a little bit more. It's always a bit of an issue with these. Turn on laser point for focusing option at 1% that we always use. I would recommend you set the laser dot so that it's on an edge here on the grid, and then you can pretty easily align the business cards to be exactly on the edge here. And then you can obviously use the layout feature to see that it's all gonna engrave on the business card. If you plan to do a lot of these in one go, I would build myself a jig, maybe a piece of wood that's like completely flat on one side and goes against the back here, and then has like a cutout that's also completely straight. So you can just push it into the jig and then set the laser engraver, bring the engraver essentially to the business card and then engrave it. because this is still has some margin for error in it, and with a jig there won't be any. And here is our finished result. As you can see, it looks pretty good. If you take a very close look, you can see there's some lines here. So you would need to adjust your fill density to maybe more lines per millimeter so it fits your machine. And play around with speed and power a bit. I think if you do a few passes, then you should have it all figured out, and then you can start making business cards. It doesn't actually take that long. I think you could do a faster fill speed. I don't think that these defects come from the speed, but more from the actual resolution. So just play around, maybe put in a higher quality image, maybe some different settings in LaserGRBL, some different contrast settings. But then it should be fine. The layout is absolutely perfect. It's just how we made it in the software. So the Inkscape software makes it really easy to make these sorts of things and make them accurately. Just import them, put in the settings, and then you are done. And that way you can easily make different business cards for different people or different projects without needing to worry about how you're gonna line it all up on the machine. So that was it for this video. I think the product turned out very well. The business cards look, first of all, it is possible to do it with a blue dyed laser. So like any other thing, you wouldn't be able to do it in the first place. Wooden business cards, yeah, it doesn't work because they would just break easily. Paper, obviously not. They need to be printed. But these are so cheap to buy. Like even a 50 pack, yeah, it's nothing, 18 cents per piece, that's actually not very much. So the machine time is gonna be the most expensive part, and you can play around with speed settings to lower the machine time, obviously. If you do a lot of them, it makes sense to do a full test run on them, see how far you can push your machine, and to get faster engravings with these ones. Still, I'm pretty happy with the results, even though I had some issues with lines, but I think I'm just gonna bump up the line density a little bit, and that way it should work, it should fix the issues. And then you can easily create your own layouts with Inkscape, as you saw. Just leave it there. As you saw, Inkscape, it is super easy. Just import your logos, make the text boxes. The layout is super great. It's much better than using GIMP, which I have used before, but like the layout in GIMP isn't very good, and you can just use Inkscape even just as a picture editor. It's a bit weird for that, but it works for stuff like this, where you have like a product with a known size. Even for the slate engravings, I'm probably gonna switch to using that. I'm just gonna make a 10 by 10 centimeter field and put everything in. And if you just leave it and don't change anything in LaserGRBL, the layout is gonna be fine. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you learned something. I hope I could help you with the design for these things and the engraving for this. If it did help you, then consider subscribing and giving the video a like, and then I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.